Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Nishkrita Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayat Mudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Ishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamalini Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangrahe. Today we are reading from Canto 2, Chapter 6, Cosmic Manifestation, Shukta confirmed, text 19. So, Padeshu Sarva Bhutani Pumsha Sthiti Padu Vidhu Amratam Shemam Abhayam Trimurthno Dhai Murthasu. Word for word. Padeshu, the 1/4, Sarva, all, Bhutani, living entities, Pumsha, of the Supreme Person, Sthiti Pada, the reservoir of all material opulence, Vidhu, you should know, Amritam, deathlessness, Shemam, all happiness, free from the anxiety of old age, disease, etc., Abhayam, fearlessness, Trimurtna, beyond the 3 higher planetary systems, Adhai, exist, Murdhashu, beyond the material coverings. So translation and purport, that's divine grace. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be known as the supreme reservoir of all material opulences by the 1/4 of his energy in which all living entities exist. Deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from the anxieties of old age and disease exist in the kingdom of God, which is beyond the 3 higher planetary systems and beyond the cover. Out of the total manifestations of the Sandhini energy of the Lord, 1/4 is displayed in the material world, and 3/4 are displayed in the spiritual world. The Lord's energy is divided into 3 component parts, namely Sandhini, Sambhit, and Adini. In other words, he has the full manifestation of existence, knowledge, and bliss. In the material world, such sense of existence, knowledge, and pleasure is meagerly exhibited, and all living entities who are minute parts and parcels of the Lord are eligible to relish such consciousness of existence, knowledge, and bliss, very minute in the living stage. Whereas in the conditioned stage of material existence, they can hardly appreciate what is the factual, existential, cognizable, and pure happiness of life. The liberated souls who exist in far greater numerical strength than those souls in the material world can factually experience the potency of the above-mentioned Sandhini, Sambhit, and Adini energies of the Lord in the matter of deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from old age and disease. In the material world, the planetary systems are arranged in 3 spheres called Triloka, or Swarga, Martya, and Patala, and all of them constitute only 1/4 of the total Sandhini energy. Beyond that is the spiritual sky. The Vaikuntha planets exist beyond the coverings of the 7 material strata. In none of the Triloka planetary systems can one experience the status of immortality, full knowledge, and bliss. The upper 3 planetary systems are called Sattvika planets because they provide facilities for a long duration of life and relative freedom from disease and old age, as well as a sense of fearlessness. The great sages and saints are promoted beyond the heavenly planets to Maharloka, but that also is not a place of complete fearlessness, because at the end of one kalpa, the Maharloka is annihilated, and the inhabitants have to transport themselves to higher planets. Yet, even on these planets, no one is immune to death. There may be a comparative extension of life, expansion of knowledge, and sense of full bliss, but factual deathlessness, fearless and freedom from old age, disease, etc., are possible only beyond the material spheres of the coverings of the material sky. Such things are situated on the head, Adhai Tasu. So we will invoke the prayers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishta Apitandena Kota Swayam Rupa Kadam Kadati Mahapantam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ekapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagatam Sajiv Sadhutam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Pesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastu Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Pranamami Pancha Kripā Sindhu Bhaivata Patitana Pavu Vishnu Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Srimad Swami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimad Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachari Nirbhishesha Asya Deshadhari Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasa Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. Welcome, devotees, to this morning's Bhagavatam discussion. I have got another opportunity to present the Bhagavatam, unqualified, but as instructed, taking this opportunity to glorify Amala Purana, Supreme Lord of all opulences, a little bit to my capacity as a service for my purification. So I ardently seek the blessings of my Guru Maharaj and devotees. So in this chapter, Brahmaji has answered Narad Muni's question, which is, if you remember in the last chapter, there were 6 questions that Narad Muni had asked. So far in verses 1 through 17, he has answered the question that what is the universe composed of? Or Yacha is the question. So Brahmaji has vividly described how the different parts of Garbhodakshayi Vishnu's body generates various ingredients of the material universe. Although the Lord himself is transcendental to all of it. Now, the verses were quite technical and really. So from verse 18, which is the previous verse which Dhananjay Pandit presented yesterday, Brahmaji starts talking about how the Lord is not just the Lord of the material world, but he is the Lord of the spiritual world too, and how it is difficult to measure his glories. So one of Narad Muni's questions to Brahmaji was that you are the creator, you know everything, then why do you undertake so much austerity? Is there really someone who's more powerful than you? So Brahmaji's response is in the section from verse 18 onward. where he's basically saying that I have created, and that too secondarily created, only this particular universe in the material world. But the Supreme Lord who I meditate upon is not just the Lord of this, material world, or not just this universe. He is the Lord of the spiritual world as well. In fact, he even created me, right? So basically, the personality who created Brahma is actually the Lord of everything, is what he's saying. So in this verse, Brahmaji is saying that everything that he has been describing in the last 18 verses is actually a manifestation of only a fourth, 1/4, 25% of the great Lord's energy. And it is called the Ekapada Vibhuti. And beyond this is 75% of the Lord's Vibhuti, which is the Tripada. And that is, you do the math, 3 times the size of the material. And that spiritual world is characterized by, if we read, Amritam, deathlessness, Shemam, all happiness, because of freedom from anxiety, old age, disease, etc., and Abhayam, fearlessness. So we, as practicing devotees, or like me, trying to practice, we sometimes feel that we are such a minority. If you think about Chicagoland, for example, the population of Chicagoland is about 10 million or more. Out of that, how many are Krishna devotees? If you think about it, if we really stretch, maybe, I don't know, 50,000, stretch, right? Even if it's 100%, 100,000, even such a small number, right? So we always feel like we're in a minority. But this verse tells us that there is the spiritual world, which is 3 times the size of the material world. If you multiply the number of planets, planetary systems, it's that many fold more. And the population is that many, multiplied numerically more number of living entities residing there than the living entities in the material realm. And they're all devotees of Krishna. Doesn't that make us feel like we actually are a part of huge majority, part of something supremely significant? Doesn't that make us feel good? That itself gives fearlessness, right? Being a part of something so great. And of course, the residents of the spiritual sky are liberated souls. And Prabhupada says that they can experience the potency of the Lord's 3 energies, which is Sandhini, Sambhit, Hladini. And therefore, they experience deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from anxieties of old age and disease. Whereas we, the residents of the external expansion of the Lord, we are conditioned souls. And in the purport, you can see Prabhupada is saying that we in the conditioned stage can hardly appreciate what is the factual, existential, cognizable, pure happiness of life. So Prabhupada has talked about Sandhini, Sambhit, and I know all of you all know that, but just to kind of reiterate, what are they? They are the Lord's energy, which is divided into 3 components, 3 parts, Sandhini, Sambhit, and Hladini, so he is the full manifestation of existence, knowledge, and bliss. Sandhini is existential energy, which is eternal. Sambhit is knowledge, and Hladini, Shakti, which we know about, represented or manifested by Srimati Radharani, is full bliss. So as we know, we also know that the Lord is manifested by Sat, Chit, Ananda. So this is, there's a correlation, right? Eternity, knowledge, and bliss. That is manifested as Sandhini, Sambhit, Hladini. So in a couple of days ago, Premananda Mathaji was explaining that living entities in the spiritual realm have forms that are similar to the Lord in in the Vaikuntha planet, for example, the living entities are four-handed. They have bluish, hued bodies. And so the point that she was making is the Lord does not hold back anything from his unalloyed devotees in the spiritual world. He has given them everything, including deathlessness, fearlessness, and shema from anxiety. So if you think about it, kind of analyzing the reason for this, in the spiritual world, nobody has to really work for maintenance. They don't have to be anxious about making a living, about bad health, right, or aging or dying. All they have to do is serve the Lord. So where, that itself basically is self-explanatory as to why the reason for no anxiety. There is really no reason for anxiety. So Brahmaji is saying that even I must die. Narada, as well as to us, it seems like his age, 3 trillion years and whatever, seems like so long. But Brahmaji says that even I must die. But in that realm, that spiritual realm, the Lord, who is deathlessness, he has shared that same quality with his pure devotees. So if you think about it, which great person in this material world gives the same facilities that he has to his servants? Generally, nobody, right? That's very rare. But the Lord does that. In the spiritual world, he has shared his same qualities of deathlessness, fearlessness, happiness with his servants, with the people, that the living entities that are around. So in contrast, in this material world, we know that there are the 3 modes of material nature, which are the ruling or the driving force. So those of us that have rebelled against Krishna, against our original nature as Krishna does, and we have basically said that we want to become independent, we left the spiritual realm to enjoy independence. Krishna let us come out of there because he allows us that free will. But where have we landed? We've landed in this enticing world of Maya. We find ourselves in the prison house, the clutches of another energy of the Lord. Daiviyesha Gunamai Mama Maya Durga. The Lord says this divine energy of mine, 3-4 material, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. So that's where we found ourselves because we have rebelled. Now, of course, given by some good fortune, we have received this higher knowledge by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. We know that there isn't anything good about the material world. We have that understanding, and so we feel the need to escape it as soon as possible. Srila Prabhupada has in fact said that only an animal is positive about material life. Any intelligent person should be pessimistic about it. Why? Everything is bad about it. The body deteriorates, health becomes worse, our habitat, our living conditions are getting worse. And soon we hear that there won't be much grains, vegetables, fruit, milk. And we're, even right now, as a side effect of the pandemic, we are seeing such shortages of food. It becomes so expensive. We hear about supply chain and all. So things are, deteriorating. However, and of course, finally, death. The majority of the people in this material realm, though, don't accept that. Most people are so busy working towards sense gratification and making a permanent situation, this impermanent place. And most people don't stop to think, that there is that indisputable truth where everyone is headed to death, and leave alone thinking about how to prepare for it. Nobody even wants to think. So Prahlad Maharaj says that trying to make a permanent settlement in a temporary world is the cause of anxiety. Sada samudvigna. So, I mean, we see that, even when we see people with, that have been given death sentences, pronounced, cancer, say 3 months to live. A lot of people use that time to try to fulfill their unfulfilled desires of sense gratification. They talk about traveling the world, eating the most decadent food, drinking some single malt whiskey, the oldest single malt whiskey and whatnot, or eating the. And even at that time, they think things are okay. I'm feeling better today. Things will be better. It sounds so worthless, right? So in Bhagavad Gita 5.22, Krishna says that. Take a quick look at that. Yeah. So Krishna says, an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So now moving on to the second paragraph of the purport given by Srila Prabhupada. In the material world, there are 3 spheres of planetary systems. That's what Prabhupada talks about, and they are called the Triloka. So you've seen the picture of the one universe. You're familiar with this. So the Triloka consists of the Patala, the lower planets, the Martyaloka, the middle planets, and the Swargaloka. And covering all of this are the 7 layers. Right? Each layer is 10 times thicker than the prior. So one can just imagine how tightly imprisoned we are in this very hard realm, which is often likened to like a hard coconut shell. But outside of this difficult material realm is the spiritual sky. That is characterized by these very brilliant planetary systems, the Vaikuntha Lokas. The top of it is, of course, Golaka, Krishna Loka, where Radha Krishna reside in their personal forms. Who wouldn't want to go there? But so coming back to what Srila Prabhupada is talking about, the material world, he says that in none of the Triloka planetary systems can one experience the status of immortality, knowledge, and bliss. Satchit Anand. The upper 3 planetary systems are called Sattvika planets because they provide facility for a long duration of life and relative freedom from the disease and old age, as well as a sense of fearlessness. But the thing is, it is still within the material realm. In the higher planets, at most one can have some additional facilities. And we hear this analogy a lot, right? Like, if now we're in a 3rd-class prison, in the higher planet, one may be in a first-class prison. A little more comfort may exist, but still, it is a prison. There's no freedom. And again, Prabhupada says that great sages and saints are promoted to Mahaloka. But even there, they do not experience fearlessness because at the end of a kalpa, even Mahaloka is annihilated by a great flood or fire. So they have to move up to higher planets. If you think about when there's a huge thunderstorm hitting, say, the Florida coast and whatever not, right? And people have to evacuate their homes because there's possibility of flooding, tornadoes, and what. They have to move up, somewhere to some shelter with minimal belongings, such uncertainty. And then once everything subsides, they have to come back and rebuild everything. That's the feeling, right? Even in Mahaloka, that there is, even there is anxiety, there is death, there isn't deathless. No one is deathless there. And in fact, even all the way up to Satyaloka, where Brahmaji recites, hear about Abrahma Bhuvana Loka, Punaravarti Arjuna. Bhagavad Krishna says that. So even if one goes up to a higher planet by virtue of some pious credit, once those credits are exhausted, again, Shine Punne Marte. So they have to return back to this mortal once again. And at that point, because of the time that has passed, things are going to be even worse. So the question is, how to achieve deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from anxiety, and how to reach that spiritual realm. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said that in so many ways. Take shelter of him, surrender to him. And not only in the final verse where he says, Sarva Dharmam Paripurjama, but right from the start, when he has introduced the three gunas, the same verse he has compassionately said, Mameva ye prapadyanti, mayameva saranti. So this divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. And of course, our Mahabhadanaya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has given us the way to surrender through now some. And he's basically said there's no need for severe austerities, Ashtanga Yoga, or the processes, formal yogas. It's given us the easy way. In fact, for us human beings, the hard work actually is already kind of done, because with a lot of difficulty, we have actually received the Sudurlabha human form of life. And this is our big opportunity to go back to the spiritual realm. So in that context, we pull up this verse from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. So it's 9.29. Labdha vasudurlabham tam bahu sambhavante manusyamartadam yam apihadukira purnam yateta napatet anumithyu yavan nisreshya saya vishaya kalu sarvatasya. So the translation is, after many, many births and deaths, one achieves the rare human form of life, which, although temporary, affords one the opportunity to attain the highest perfection. Thus, a sober human being should quickly endeavor for the ultimate perfection of life, as long as his body, which is always subject to death, has not fallen down. After all, sense gratification is available even in the most abominable species of life, whereas Krishna consciousness is possible only for. So we finally have that opportunity and the eligibility to go to that Tripada Vibhuti, 75% of Lord's realm, the spiritual sky, just by virtue of having this human form. We need a little bit of endeavor on our part. All we need to do, we are eligible. We just need to do a little bit to qualify ourselves. So with that reassuring thought of hope, I will end today. Brahmaji actually continues glorifying the Bhagavad in tomorrow's verse, which is Subha Mataji. So thank you very much. Sorry if I have mistaken anything. Please add or correct. I'm just grateful to have had the opportunity to meditate upon Srimad.
Shidhar Prabhu has it.
Vamshidhari Prabhu, yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Your audio looks to be chopping to me. I don't know, it's only to me.
It's to me also, Prabhu. I was thinking it's my problem.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. So maybe not sure, Mata. I think maybe it's a Zoom setting that turns off the original sound. Maybe that's how it is like something is cutting out. Like it cuts out very little, like not too much big. So just an information only. It's not a big, but we are able to follow your your presentation, enthusiastic presentation.
thank you, Prabhu. I'll have to check into that.
Yeah, I believe it's a Zoom setting, Mata.
Okay.
You are sharing the math for percentage. I lost it, Mata, because I didn't take note immediately. What was the percentage of the minority you are sharing, Mataji?
So it says 1/4 is Ekapada, right?
Yeah.
And 3/4 is the Tripada, spiritual sky.
Okay.
So 3 times.
And in Chicago, you said?
No, in Chicago, I was just giving an example that in Chicago, out of the 10 million, Chicagoland, I guess about 10 million population, how many are devotees, right?
Yeah.
So as a result, I mean, if you really stretch, maybe 25,000 or 50,000, it's a very, very small percentage.
10 million into 5,000? Not even 5,000, right?
Not even 5 to, yeah. So
maybe like 10 million to 5,000. It's like, it's much less than 3/4.
Oh, yes. Yes, exactly. So that's, as a result, we often think of ourselves as, belonging to a minority, right? That
yeah, for sure we are minority.
Yeah. However, if you consider the creation as a whole,
yeah,
then there is that 75% of Tripada Vibhuti, that spiritual sky, in which the population is so much higher. And they're all devotees. And, we actually are part of that majority.
Yeah.
So that gives us the, sense of significance, that sense of belonging to something that is so much greater. Part of the
and I'm also thinking to a little bit trouble you saying that, we don't know, right? We don't know whether it is true. Who knows when that will happen, that majority.
Oh, well, we know that 75% spiritual sky is already inhabited by pure devotees, right? That's why they are there. We as spiritual souls were there as well. That's my understanding, Prabhu, and that's what we are learning from the verses in Srimad Bhagavatam.
We have to take on the theory, and also we have to take on the just the pranama of the Guru Sadhu Shastra. That's all.
Hare Krishna, Mataji and Prabhu, can I interject?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, please pardon me for interjecting, but verse 17 that we read a few days ago, I actually missed the class. Last, at the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, we can just make an estimate of numbers of residents of the internal expansions in comparison with the number of residents in the external energy, and may easily conclude that the liberated souls are far more numerous than the conditioned souls.
Yes.
So I just wanted to remind that Prabhuji and Mataji.
Yeah, and in fact, even here, Prabhupada talks about that numerically, that is a large number.
That's like the first paragraph, last third line.
Yes, those souls exist in far greater strength.
And I have a second part question. So you were mentioning that Lord Brahma was asked 6 questions, right? The characteristics and so on.
Yes.
Could you be able, do you have them handy, or you can share more on that, Mataji? If not, is also fine, but I thought, I'm curious what you come up with.
We can't hear you much now.
Mathaji, can you try turning on your original sound, something like that? Because when you're a little far, we cannot hear you at all. There's an option in the Zoom in the leftmost corner on the top. It will say turn on original sound, something like. Do you see that? I think it won't show for a show all the time, but yeah, it should be an option, something. Any case, Mataji, so when you're a little away, we are not able to hear.
Okay, Prabhu, maybe I can seek your help after the class so I don't hold up everybody to get some,
No, how to fix it now?
So, the 6 questions, if you're able to hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you fine now.
Okay. So the 6 questions are Yad Rupam, what is the characteristic of the universe? Yad Adhishtanam, what is its shelter? Yad Shrishtam, how is it created? Yad Samtam, how is it conserved? Yat Param, what does it depend on? And Yat Cha, what is it composed of?
So how is it created is clear, like, the metal nature has pinned on. Yad Rupam, what does it mean, Mother? Like, how does it look? Or characteristics, like what?
Yeah, characteristics of the universe. The 5 components of this universe are non-different from Lord Vasudeva, being his differentiated parts and parcels. Nothing but he exists in truth. I'm actually looking at, so it is answered in the 14th verse of the previous chapter.
I was only trying to relate to those words, like, and relate what is characteristics mean, what does it mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Rupam. Rupam means it's for sure it's a form.
So it talks about the 5 dravya, 5 components, dravya, jiva, kana, swabhava.
Yeah, so that's a form.
Yeah, different.
Yeah, the Rupam. And then the next one is
what is its shelter?
Shelter.
So Lord Narayana is the shelter of everything.
Okay.
So it's answered in 15 and 16, in verses 15 and 16. Yad Ishtam is answered in, how is it created? Is answered in from verses 21 to 21 in the previous chapter. So it talks about the Karanadaksha Vishnu, how Pradhan is,
that is for?
How is it created?
Created, yeah. Created, yeah, I got that.
Yeah,
that was
created is clear, yeah.
how it is created.
Yeah. And then Yat Samtham, which is how is it conserved?
Yeah, that's also easy one, right? Like just goes back, emerges.
And then Yat Param is what does it depend on? And that is again Narayana, right? Depends on the shelter of Narayana.
The previous one is shelter and this one is called depend on.
Previous one was how is it conserved?
No, the second one, the shelter.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. Does it shelter? And this is what does it depend on? Both are answered by that. Narayana is the shelter and dependence, Lord Narayana, shelter of everything. And then Yacha, what is it composed of, was answered in 17 verses. You all presented, right? The last few.
Oh, composed of is also covered in the creation part. In one way, the first question also relates to it, right? What are its form, the kalaja and sabhava and everything. It's also is composed of, right? That's also the composition. Okay. Thank you, Mataji. It looks like we're going to run for a meeting, but thank you for help me elaborate more.
Thank you, Prabhu, for asking the question and making me look at it and think about it. Okay, I will stop here then. Panchakalpatarasya kripa sindhuvaiva patitanam Vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanand.